everyone. Welcome in, and thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it. For those of you who are new or unfamiliar with the channel, I'm Elryin Silvertree, and of course, this is the Silvertree Consortium. Here on the Silvertree Consortium Twitch channel, we play video games ranging from MMORPGs, real-time strategies, simulations, and even a ton of games from indie game developers. Thank you once again for stopping by for today's video. I hope to catch you soon at one of our live streams. With that said, let's jump right into the reason for today's video. Last night, we were afforded the very special opportunity to have Chris ATOS Spears, the technical director of Catnip Games, on our live stream for a brief question and answer session. Chris stopped by to answer questions submitted from our chat about their game, Shroud of the Avatar. I hope you'll sit back and enjoy the video, and if you have any questions regarding Shroud of the Avatar, feel free to stop by the Silvertree Consortium on Twitch anytime we're live. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you so much once again for stopping by. First question, what are the chances that the team will be working on making more of the food items into placeable deco items? And what is the likelihood that work will be done to revamp the cooking system? And if it's likely, what changes can we look forward to? So a couple of food related questions.
So as for making them into decorative, a lot of that stuff you can thank Elryin. I think we're now 7 minutes into the stream and I haven't plugged him yet, but Elryin's been doing amazing work. And that's one of the things he's kind of pushed on is some of the stuff that like it's team members where we don't get to play as much as we want as normal players, and we don't see how annoying that is to have food you can't decorate with. So he's actually jumped on a lot of that stuff and made
Nice.
a lot of that stuff decoratable and been going through and itemizing stuff and making lists of stuff. So he's doing an amazing job on that. So he's probably the guy to ask. I think we probably have models for just about all the food. Obviously, when we start getting into some of these things, like multiple different types of stew, we're not going to have unique stew variations for each one of them, but we probably have some way we can do a pot of stew or something. Put a deco attached to it so it's out there. But
right, I see that.
Elryi's the guy probably to ping on that stuff because he's actually to the point where he can hook up a lot of that stuff himself, and where he can't, he can always ask us, and we can help him out. But yeah.
Nice.
As for new cooking stuff, I am taking a look at a lot of the crafting stuff. That's going a lot slower than I'd hoped, just because, again, I've lost a lot of time here lately. I think I mentioned, it seems every release on, I think this year, as I've mentioned, has gone about as well for the team and scheduling as the year has gone for everybody else in the world, which is not how they wanted and not how they planned. But the crafting stuff got pushed back this time. Really, I spent a lot of time this release on taxes, getting the tax for the team, trying to make sure everything was nice and ship shape. And it was, I think Snugsy1 was the one who's making fun of me, because I always talk about how, like, non-game developer people try and do game design, and then I go and do my own taxes instead of getting a tax professional to do it for me. But it is done. It's kind of a weird year in terms of Catnip Games and how things went in terms of taxes. So next year will be a lot easier. I've got it all hooked up, and those are the other things. I run the company just using like QuickBooks and a few other things just to keep our costs down. And next year will be much easier for me. But yeah, I do plan on getting a lot of crafting stuff done. I have not got much done. Cooking is one of the areas where I think we should have more. Again, it's one of the areas where when I look at it, how many recipes do people actually make and eat? And it's really, there's just a couple of recipes, and it's like, we've got a ton of recipes that never get used, sit idle or whatever, because you have a number of recipes. So I want to make sure that when we have recipes, there's choices you can actually make that are all kind of nearly equivalent, but just serving different purposes. Right now, everybody kind of does the same couple. So I'll be adding recipes that are more meaningful to give people a choice.
The next question actually touches on that exact thing, and that's something. So I think what you'll also recognize is most of these questions are going to be crafting or deco related, because ultimately that's the way I steered the questions, because
Mhm.
that's the type of stuff that I do. I'm less into combat, and combat is more of a side requirement rather than something I play the game for. That said, the second question is regarding food. Has any thought or progress been put towards or made in addressing the issues regarding lower tiered foods? And there were a number of suggestions there on how you could, you know, change the way lower tiered foods work, such as stacking the different effects for certain periods of time, or stacking the periods of time based on the number of foods that you ate, obviously limited to some arbitrary number, so on and so forth. If you have the questions, you can see them. I'm not gonna, because it's kind of confusing how it's worded, which is my own fault. But trust me, it's less confusing the way I wrote it than the way it was submitted to me. So
Let's see. Oh, I stupidly opened it in Excel, and it all hangs off the side of the spreadsheet there.
excellent,
The internal
yes.
graph.
Yep, because it's a CSV. I should have put it in an Excel file format, but this is the way it was exported to me, and I just
That's fine. Let's see. So one of the things I've looked at doing for the food, and this actually goes for all buffs in general, is right now we have a system that is used kind of globally as it's called our channel system, and this determines what things can stack together and what things cannot stack. This is why you can't, some spells, you can only have one shield spell up. And so that's defined as like there's a shield channel and it has a max of one and it has the rule for override. So if you cast another shield, it'll just override the old one. So we use that same system for the food buffs. So that food buffs, you get 2 food buffs. The thing I was looking at doing was breaking down that channel just a little bit more and giving it some resolution in terms of not everything, because right now it's basically here's the number of buffs rather than here's the number of points. I would love to make the food channel like, hey, guess what? Bear stew is or dragon stew is like a 3-point buff. You get 6 points total on the channel. So you could have 6 really wimpy buffs, or you could have 2 really big buffs. And then suddenly those smaller recipes, those smaller meals, become meaningful again, and that you can have, you can have like the dragon stew, and then you can pick 3 others, and it's like, well, I'm going to go with these 3 because I'm looking for resistance, and I can get resistance out of these things. But rather than it being all of them are equal and they have a value of 1 point, making it so again like a 6 point is what I was looking at, with the big ones taking up basically 3. So if you're just eating the big popular ones, the high tier ones, then great, they'll fill it up. But if you're eating the lower ones, then you can have, you could have as many as 6.
yeah, that actually that's a solid option as well. So, and that helps to know some of the back end, the way some of that stuff works, obviously, um, understand an easy way to make those changes. So I like that. If you have, say, dragon stew is a takes up a whole or half the points, right, available, um, and then you could have just instead of eating dragon stew, you could have 3 maybe of the lower tiered foods, because a lot of times people aren't playing for 8 hours or whatever length of time. So some of the lower tiered food time periods make more sense, but obviously the strength of those buffs are not very ideal.
Yep. But anyways, the other advantage to that is, as you mentioned, right, and I mentioned like the lower tiered foods and the lesser foods, there's only a couple foods you can really sell to anyone but a new player to the game. And there's only a couple foods that any player would like to have. But this now brings up, one, it gets people consuming more stuff, which again, all crafters should be happy about people consuming more and more things to sell. And then gives those things gives them a purpose. And then the idea would be that it would be roughly the same or a little better to have the single 3-point buff than it is to have a 3 1-point buffs. Or same thing, like 2 3 points or 3 2 points or 6 1 points. We want it to be a little bit better for the top tier ones. You know, it'll still add up to more, but we want to make sure and balance that so there's, it's at least a choice. Right now, there's no choice. Unless you're dumb, you're going to be doing one of just a couple foods. So.
Sure.
Anyways,
that makes sense.
My ideas on that stuff. I have thought about that. Again, I haven't had a ton of time to work on implementing a lot of the stuff in the crafting stuff, but I have been working on thinking how to improve it and what the real problems are with it.
Well, yeah, and that's I like that too, because there are a lot of others, and I think a lot of people will agree with me. There are a lot of other things that are, I think, more important to work on, but it's good that you're thinking about it, because at some point, hopefully, those other things will be resolved, and then you'll be able to get to some of the lower ranking issues. So I guess we'll move on to the next question. Again, we are limited on time, so I don't time per question here. So third question is there any chance that we can get curtains or doorway type placeable deco? So suggestions for that are window coverings for our windows, doorways, sliding or folding or hanging type doors. It's very similar. There's a deco in one of the buildings. I can't remember where now specifically, but it's basically like a blanket over a line, and you double click it and it opens up. Have something like that so that we can create spaces instead of just using doorways or walls creating essentially hallways, much like this. If I could have a door here, that would be much better than a wide open space. So that's one part of that question, and the next part of that question is, while we're on the topic of deco, are there any chances we can look forward to additional flower types that we can grow and deco with? Suggestions were tulips, lilies, orchids, and daisies.
The second part of that, again, is probably one to hit up Elryin with, because that is right up his alley, and he's been really good at making lists. I mean, in a lot of ways, in theory, I'm supposed to be the new Star while Star figures out some stuff and is taking a break from things. But in a lot of ways, Elryin is more the Star type that I am, except for he's not me. I don't think there's anyone left on the team. We're all a bunch of nice guys. Not that Star was mean. Star was amazing, but he was a bit of a whip cracker and did not tolerate failure in a lot of times. So, and also would love to have Star back anytime. He's still doing stuff and talking to me, and we'll see if we can get him back. But anyways, Elryin is amazing, and he would be the guy to hit up with that stuff, and he could probably go find to see if we have it out there. And he's been pretty good about figuring things out. We could definitely help him out. I don't see him in chat yet, so he may not be in here. But anyways, so to the first part of that, the question on having working doors as decos was something I'm not sure how I managed to not realize that would be cool. But that's something players brought up in the last stream. And I don't know of any reason we can't. There's some problems with using them in dungeons and stuff like that where they could be somewhat exploitable. But even in dungeons, I don't even think they're a problem there. So I don't know why we don't have them, honestly. There's a little bit of wackiness with nav mesh stuff and pathfinding, but I don't think it's that bad. And I think it's probably something that players in general, if you give them the option of like, hey, give you deco doors, but your creatures, your pet won't be able to walk through them, they'll have to teleport through them, or we don't give them to. I think you guys would want the doors and don't worry about the pets. But I'll look into it. And yeah, we totally should have them. I don't know of any reason we don't. We already have state-based stuff in the game, so doors would just be another state-based placeable item.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I've been wishing for those for a very long time. So I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't have pets. Like all my pets are just around my properties, but I can't imagine it would be so much of an issue. I'm sure some people would complain, but can't make everybody happy all the time. So well, that's good. And so we'll talk with Elryin about flower types. And I think he probably already knows. It seems to me like chat says Elryin sees, Elryin knows. Hey, Necronut, welcome in. And welcome to everybody who's here, by the way. Sorry I'm not responding. as I'm listening to ATOS here, I don't want to interrupt. I'm not muting between. That's just too much. So, hello everybody, and thank you for being here. I appreciate you all. We'll move on to question 4. At one point, there was some discussion about using the mannequin outfit system for player vendors and conversationalists. Can you tell us where the team is at on this? Has it passed into development phase, or is it getting dropped due to some unforeseen development difficulty or other issues related to other things like taxes? We believe it would create a lot of spin-off for Kodo store sales as we outfit our vendors and conversationalists in heraldry and store-bought outfits.
I don't know why that dropped. I can tell you, I mean, I haven't made it a big secret that one of the things I think I've done differently is I've tried not to push as much in terms of the crown, like let's get everything into the crown store and make a bunch of stuff to sell, and trying to push more in terms of game development. Maybe me reprioritizing some of that stuff, maybe it dropped with that. But I don't know why that fell by the wayside. I don't think we came up with any technical reason why it couldn't be done. So I probably just need to go back and take another look at it. And again, we try to do pretty good on making objects, making systems so they can be combined and added together. You know, when you look at like a, chest, that's like, it's a container and a deco and a multi-state, thing. So we try to make sure all that stuff combines. And I don't know, the mannequin was one that was one and only did, and he's still around. So I can ping him to see if he knows of any issues. But yeah, I don't know why that fell by the wayside other than just lack of time to hit everything. But I thought that was a cool idea. And
yeah, I mean, it would be really nice. And so I know that it would probably pull some sales from the actual patterns for conversationalists and vendors, but ultimately the amount of change that happens for vendors and stuff like that would go up, so people would be buying more outfits and changing their outfits and outfitting all kinds of different crazy outfits. I personally think it would be great, and I also feel that concern about putting so much into the Kodo store. I appreciate that change. I actually didn't know that was a stance that you had taken, so I appreciate that, because the Kodo store is great, but I think it can drive some misgivings on the game if everything is just Kodo store related, right? So
yeah, and just to be clear on that, that's one that one of the things I think I have done from the 2020 vision stuff is my vision for the game has always been for the future of the game is we need to focus more on making the game good rather than just trying to continually crank out store items, and that we'll get way more long term. It's a long run play, but making the game better brings in more people, which makes more money. So rather than us focusing a lot of time on store items, let's focus as much as we can on just making the game better in every way possible. So it wasn't really an edict of like, no one's allowed to work on store stuff, obviously, because we still have some store stuff coming out. It's just kind of trying to make sure we always prioritize game system stuff over store stuff.
And I think it's fairly clear, at least to me and maybe hopefully others, that you're definitely making a lot of moves that are what I would call the long play move. You've detailed a few of those for people, and I appreciate that that's your mindset, because that's our mindset as players of the game, or at least long time members of this community. We're looking at this like we want episode 5, right? So that's years and years off and down the road. So having you guys look down the road instead of the immediate gratification of store sales is at least in my opinion, it's very refreshing.
And we do, for those people out there who are new and don't know much about the game or the history of the game, one of the things we take very seriously also is not just like that type of like trying to make sure we're working on game systems over that type of stuff and trying to always have a long-term vision, but like data integrity and player, making sure we never lose your data or make you guys waste too much time with stuff like rollbacks. That's one of those things we've always tried to be really careful about. And then also internally making sure we have ways we are rock solid in terms of security for data, even down to being GDPR, the European standards for security stuff in terms of making sure your private data is stored. It's actually stored in a server in Europe. That's actually sometimes adds a little bit to our login times, but so all private data or personal information is stored to be compliant with GDPR as much as well across the board, and we can even delete your data. But also backups, we take that all very seriously in terms of multiple layers of on-site, off-site backup of all data. So if anything ever did go wrong, we can be back up and running. I think people saw I forget how long it was, but we actually had a little bit of downtime where we had one of our quad servers collapsed, and we had to rebuild things pretty quick. But we take long-term, player data and long-term everything as serious as we can. So
nice.
Know that your data and you're never going to lose your character. You're never going to have like these week-long rollbacks or massive downtimes. We try to take all that stuff seriously.
That's definitely something I appreciate. I'm sure there's a lot of us out here who also do. And of course, the new players should. That's a big thing for those new players because a lot of games don't necessarily comply with that particular data set there. So we'll move on to question 5. Is it possible, and this one's more for it is a little bit combat related, but it's also deco related because I have a dungeon and I don't do very much combat, but is it possible to allow players to name their own dungeons? If so, could it also be possible to add a tiered rating system based on the lowest tiered totem in the dungeon with several pluses indicating tiers above that into the naming? So an example would be the Silvertree Family Crypt Troll level 2 ++, meaning it's a level 2 troll totem with at least one level 4 totem within. So basically it allows players before they go in to know that what they can expect, right? So within that dungeon there's level 2 troll. Are you capable of handling that before you go in? You don't have to go in and find out, oh crap, I'm gonna die.
So the dungeon stuff is, I put a lot of that stuff aside because I think, again, as we move through things, through building systems and ideas come up, we kind of change directions a little bit. Dungeon stuff was one where I got into it and I realized one of the things we need to do is I was spending a lot of time trying to make creatures and stuff like that fit the dungeons and the reward. And I realized really what we needed to do was something we had to do for episode 2, which is now mostly done, which is trying to get tiered creatures that can be dynamic. So rather than having 100 different variations of a troll or whatever, so there's a troll 1, troll 2, whatever, having one that knows how to scale himself and have different abilities and also have different stats and experience and rewards based on his level. And that's dungeons. I kind of put that on hold. That was because Ravlox expressed an interest in working on it. And he also got wrapped up in some real life stuff, although he's back a lot more active with the team now after getting some of that stuff up. And that was just personal stuff and moving stuff, like actually physically moving in real life stuff. And but he expressed an interest. But now that we have the dynamic creatures that we can adjust their level without having to make 27 different versions of them, we'll probably get back to doing some more dungeon stuff. I'm hoping that Ravlox can do that, can jump on that, but I'm probably going to switch. That may be a big change you guys see, which may elicit some screams of horror in terms of balance stuff, but trying to get the dynamic creatures swapped into the dungeon system so that then they can be, infinitely variable in terms of their difficulty and also rewards.
Nice. Well, I look forward to some of that stuff. I'm not, again, huge into combat, but maybe with better dungeon stuff, maybe I'll get more into it. Let's move to, we're actually making pretty good time, so we're about halfway through, and we're basically on the last question. We've got a couple of bonus questions that I'm going to ask, and then there's a lot of people in chat talking, lots of questions and lots of statements. So I guess we could probably drop over to the chat and see what they have for for you as well. But last question, or at least the last one I had prepared, are what are the chances we could get the team to work on updating teleport scrolls to allow friends or party members to teleport into an encounter scene? And so I know, like, if you're in a group and you go into an encounter, they can follow you. But if you're in an encounter and you form a group, those people have to find where you're at, and that can take forever. I know, because it happens to me all the time. Like, I get into an encounter and then it's a Aether Dragon, and I'm pretty much screwed. So then I holler out to chat and say, hey, who wants to help? And then they say, and then they've got to look for me, and I end up dying a couple of times before they get there. So what the question is essentially is change or update the way that the teleport to friends scroll works to allow people to go into encounters to kind of resolve that problem. And then in addition, in this, along that same vein, how much work would it be to create a new overland encounter for Reapers in certain forest types? Reapers are really cool. I like them. And it would be neat to have them on the overland. This is actually a question I posed in chat, and then someone submitted it as a question for me to ask you. So, because they knew I probably wouldn't ask if they didn't. There you go.
So I don't know why the teleport scrolls don't take you to them. I'm not sure. I remember there being a lot of talk about teleport scrolls and where they should take you. But maybe that's one I can look at. I don't know if there's a technical reason why they can't. I know there's some situations where we don't let you teleport in, and I'm trying to remember what the scene flags are, but I think we can flag a scene for it, and that's just so you don't have like one dude go to the end of a quest scene or whatever, and then just like, hey, anybody wants to teleport to me, and I'm at the very end. But I don't know why that would be set for encounter scenes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That may be oversight.
I have not too often had to teleport into an encounter, but I'm fairly certain that you cannot teleport to friends who are in encounters for whatever reason.
I'm asking right now, by the way.
And then as far as the Reapers overland, that I think is a fantastic idea. I know it's a little bit of work, but you can always use like the forest road scenes, stuff like that to make the work a little bit less. But what do you think?
No, I like that. I like the encounter scenes just in general. I think it's something that can appeal to existing, long-term players, but I think it's also something that new players find pretty cool. Although for new players, running into a Reaper scene can be pretty tough.
Yeah.
Sanyo's been doing great on just jumping on stuff like that he feels is the low-hanging fruit, best thing to get in there. He's working right now on Lord British's Castle. He didn't wrap it up for this release, but I think we showed it on a stream a couple weeks ago. He's done a lot of work. I think he'll have it easily wrapped up for next release and have some free time. So,
Sure.
Yeah, that sounds like one that would be a great one for him to do.
So another thing, just a small thing to touch on that would be with the variable critters. Perhaps the overland encounters can scale with, and I think there was talk about that at one point, with the level of the person encountering it.
Mm-hmm.
So that might make those Reaper scenes, though I guess the Reaper is kind of a higher end critter. Anyways, that's cool. I'm glad that you like the idea. I personally used to use the encounters almost exclusively, so any combat I was in an encounter until you started adding dragons, and then I had to find other places.
The scaling scenes to the level of the player is another one of those reasons that we have the dynamic creature difficulty system. And again, I don't know if it even made the patch notes, but the rewards for the creatures and those dynamic scenes did go up at the higher levels. Things, I think, like before, if you had, just because it's in my brain, I think a tier 20 dragon or something like that, you kill it, you'd only get like 100 and I forget what, like maybe 120 or 150,000 experience points, and that's now more like in the million range. scaled up significantly more. It's a formula for, power formula. So it's, it grows as the creature level gets higher. But anyways, the experience on a lot of that stuff went up at higher levels, went up by 4 or 8. But the difficulty with having things scale to players is we intentionally want things we both love and also hate, is that we've kind of built the game around the idea that level isn't that important. And while, it obviously is pretty important, we try not to make it a wall so that you fall 5 levels behind your friend and you can no longer adventure with them. We want players who are level, 100 adventuring with players who are level 50 that, joined the game a couple weeks ago. But that makes it difficult when you go into a scene of picking, like, who do we scale this to? If we scale it to the high level, then it's tough on the low level. You scale it to the low level. If you scale it to the average, it just gets kind of weird. But again, that's one of the challenges we have with the scaling encounter scenes that you go into. But we have talked about it, and again, now we have systems in place so we can do that. So maybe that's something we can look at again.
Nice. All right, so that's pretty much the questions I have set aside. There's a couple of bonus questions which I want to ask, and then I have a final question I promised I'd ask. So, but first, does the team have any plans to handle overland access towns that are completely empty, unused, or inactive? One of the suggestion was to replace the overland image of the pot that are empty or unused, or whose governors and homeowners are all inactive, a ghost town image after 60 days or so of inactivity. Obviously, it would be useful to hold the location on the overland for the player who purchased it, but also to indicate at a glance to players not to waste their time running through the town.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of have some stuff, but to show popularity for a city, but I don't think we have enough stuff. That's one of those things that we have spent some time on in the past. But yeah, we probably need to spend some more time because there's kind of multiple different types of ghost towns. We made the rule that, if you have a town or if you have a tax-free deed and it's in a pot, then we made the rule that it never gets picked up. And so there's some places that look like they have some players, but they're really not that active. They just have a couple players who have long-term deeds. But yeah, we can probably spend some more time, and that's one of the things we have ranking stuff for pot activity, and maybe that's one of those things we just need to pull that information in, give players a way so they can actually see what's going, how active a town is, because it's also tough to measure a town in terms of, a single number. Like right now we do measure it in terms of a single number and represent it, but that number is just like how many lots are on the town. And there's better measures we could have than that. So
I thought the suggestion was good, but again, it's some of these things, and I will mention this to chat because it seems like you guys are getting a little bit sassy. Some of these issues may not be as important to you, but you're not the only player in the game. And though there may be 10s or 20s of the people like you who think that your issue is the most important, there are other people in the game who find other parts of the game important. Just thought I'd mention that. Because this next question, I think, is something a lot of people find very important, but others may find less important. Are there any plans to improve upon the fishing system? It's already a great system. Lots of people use it. It's cool, but we think that there could be some expansion, and we hope that there will be expansion in the future. Suggestions for different type of fishing are sulfur fishing, void fishing, astral fishing, different types of fish, flying fish, cave fish. So, what are you guys' thoughts on the fishing system? Do you plan to expand the system at all, or?
So I can bring up a few things. One, we did just add a couple of new fish, the lava fish stuff. There's going to be some more fish that I'm sure we'll be getting in within the next release or two. The fishing system, again, with the food updates that I've already got planned, and we already talked a little bit about those for people who missed it earlier. I think that some of the fishing recipes will become desirable again, and that fishing will have more of a purpose rather than just a trophy type thing or a who can catch the biggest fish on the leaderboard type stuff. As for the astral fishing, that's interesting because the next thing that List is working on, he's wrapped up the map he's on, and he actually has already started. He's actually started working on a floating island scene. Nice. So when you mentioned the astral fishing, that's interesting. But we may have a new fishing type or a new place for fish that is only in those type of scenes. I don't know that it would be a whole new category of fish, but I can definitely see us adding some fish that only exist in that scene. So
cool.
But yeah, no, the fishing, we know, again, I look at what people spend their time doing, and you will hear a lot of people, in fact, I'm sure some people in chat saying negative things about fishing and that's stupid and whatever. Players spend a lot of time fishing. Again, increasing its contribution to the economy will get even more people fishing, making some more rare fish and recipes, making those valuable to get more people fishing. And it's something that players really enjoy doing for whatever reason. I think Richard tells that story all the time, that no one really ever expected fishing to be meaningful in any game, I don't think.
Maybe a fishing game.
Yeah, maybe a fishing game. But so we do consider it worth spending time on. Obviously, since we just added some more fish, and we're probably going to be adding some more fish. But I will be getting to, I consider that part of the harvesting section of the crafting work that I need to do, which is still the first thing I'm going to be working on. But that'll probably be in my next list. Again, I'll probably try and get to some of the food stuff. The number change I mentioned is actually a pretty easy and quick one. It's just a matter of balancing how much, how many points each recipe is worth. But again, that's not something that's going to take a full release or something. So sure. That'll be coming along soon.
All right, so final question. I promised I'd ask this. If you're listening, Bo, here it goes. Is it possible that we can get a tameable woodchuck pet in game? And if so, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Wow. So that brings up one of the things that I also have on my long list of wish items that I would need to make time for, and hopefully I can, now that I'm not going to be spending weeks and weeks on Unity, floundering, and taxes, and vacations, which is getting pets to give you buffs. That'd be fabulous to have a woodchuck pet who gave you a buff for harvesting, for like meticulous collection for wood gathering or something. But yeah, woodchuck's a small animal. We have, but earlier in the year, we were going to work on the koala. We actually got the koala and got part of that, at least rolling. We didn't actually finish it because kind of the world went into chaos, and so did our schedule at some point. But getting a lot of pets online is something we keep saying we're going to do. That's one of the things we brought up as a priority in one of our last meetings. So having more pets, and a woodchuck, the smaller a pet is, the easier it is for us to do, and especially if it's a non-combat pet. So I'm sure he is totally kidding about a woodchuck, but we do plan on having a number of new pets coming out.
I'm not certain that he's totally kidding. He may be very serious.
It can have a harvesting buff for it too.
Yeah, so that would be a pretty neat thing, because obviously we have combat pets, and then we have non-combat pets, which are kind of basically pointless other than kind of follow you around. So it'd be neat to have non-combat pets that actually had a function, which which would actually probably make me have one, actually, to be.
Well, and that's it. There's kind of the two people. There's the people who keep no pets, and there's the people who keep combat pets, and when you're out, you never see other pets. Imagine if you had secondary pets that gave some small buff, people would actually have those out. Like woodchucks. So that's it. You're done.
That's all our questions that I prepared. There's a bunch of other questions on the list. I'll let you look those over. I did not wash those questions, so beware. There may be attitude in them. But you can answer those, or if you want to address chat, we can do that.
Let's see. fishing is great. It's relaxing. Agree. I see your response to that is a groan. I'll look down those questions real quick, but let me get over. A drunk buff while fishing, please. Yeah, that's. I do still have a ton of buffs set up for the alcohol stuff. So I don't think I have a fishing one, surprisingly. Seems like, yeah, it seems like, what's a fishing drink? Is that like beer? Is ale the fishing choice?
I have no idea. I don't
That's
know.
one that I actually got. I got most of the alcohol stuff done, but I did not complete it because I knew, walking through in my head, putting it out there, that I knew that there would be some people who in real life don't want to encourage drinking and would be upset that alcohol had buffs and other stuff didn't have buffs. And then also the kind of the crossing with it's getting very near the food buff stuff, and how to, where do you distinguish drink buffs ending and the other one beginning. And it's one that, again, looking at the food buff changes, wanting to make sure that those, I didn't make one change and then make another change that broke the previous change. So maybe that's how that'll end up, as the alcohol buffs will just end up being like a 1-point buff, food buff, that you'll be able to choose between. So they're saying 25-year whiskey to give 100% catch rate.
I think my camera froze. I'm 100% sure.
Well, at least you have a good expression on your face.
Yeah, I'm happy. There you go.
Like, could have been worse.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't get caught with a dirt face on or something. They mentioned telethons used to have drinking. Telethons did used to have drinking. We should bring those back. I keep saying we're going to bring those back. We've been getting Richard on. I think Richard's been doing some drinking on our telethons, but again, I think the drinking on the telethons in the old days was kind of the, tied to money, and trying to move things away from money as much as possible and focus on trying to make sure we're making the best game we can, and making that how we generate more money, is improving the game rather than pushing for money through stuff. Missed those telethons. I'll tell you what, I'll try and set up a drinking telethon here in the not too terribly distant future. Let you guys know in advance.
There you go. Yeah, I enjoyed those telethons as well. It's kind of unfortunate that they went away, but obviously priorities and whatnot.
Let's see, what are the questions up here? Why can't I trade the taming necklace back after it's empty? I didn't know you couldn't trade a taming necklace back. You know what that is referring to?
Oh yeah. So, well, I don't exactly know, but apparently, when you have a taming necklace, and it's used. I don't do any taming, so maybe the person who asked that's in chat and can clarify. But apparently, once you use the necklace, they want to be able to trade it back or sell it back to a vendor.
You can't sell it back to a vendor?
I have no idea. I've never tried. I do want to quickly, because I think someone in chat brings up a good point, and this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. Our friend Fizzle has asked about treasure maps, and so though it would be nice to have other types of fishing, this is another point where maybe some other things would be more important, or maybe higher on the list in some of our minds. Treasure maps and stuff like that is, I would say, much higher on my list than fishing, but obviously others as well. What do you think about treasure maps?
So I actually have, trying to see if it actually it is checked in, so I could actually create it. No, part of it's not checked in. So they're actually, I've done a lot of work towards treasure maps before I got super distracted with other things. I actually have, there's a treasure map in the game that I create right now that's a 9-part treasure map that basically you find the 9 parts, combine them, and it effectively becomes a teleport scroll to a scene that's a one-time scene. So that has not gone live yet, but the scene is actually in there. The treasure is actually in there. the map pieces just have not been added to drops. It's something I could put live, but I believe it was Elryin was going over, referring me to threads on what people were hoping for in treasure maps, and I think it was what they were hoping for in treasure maps seemed to be miles beyond what I created. And I was I didn't want to release something that I felt like was going to be an immediate disappointment.
Okay, that makes sense.
I am a fan of treasure maps. I actually have the map. I wonder how if I can share my screen here.
Camera's back.
There we go. But yeah, there is actually a treasure map in there. I do have the pieces. I do have the recipe done. All that stuff is in there. I just haven't really put it out there. The goal was also to create a couple of treasure maps, but there's currently a sewer and there's a mine section for treasure maps. And for those who don't know, the idea for these is it's another way I can give you guys loot that is a little more interesting. And rather than being just here it is, here's the item, it's something that can be turned into a marketplace item. You can sell the pieces because some pieces are going to be more rare than others and will drop in different places. So it gives you a reason to, like when you're working somewhere, it gives you another thing you can find at a certain scene and gives you a reason to go to other scenes. But then when it's done, you can also sell the treasure map because it's kind of a one-time, it's kind of a, in a way, it's like a super duper crazy over the top loot bundle in terms of what you get out of it, because the map, as I have it laid out right now, let's see.
So on that same topic, while you're looking, messages in a bottle also would go over very well. Obviously, we're hearkening back to the WoW days, but and they responded with what they were talking about with the necklace, the taming necklaces. Apparently, when your pet permadies, or when it permadies, the necklace become locked to the player, so you can't do anything with it. It's basically locked in your inventory. You have to, I guess, throw it away.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that part, and I don't think I've heard that before in all this time. Obviously not intended. I'm not sure what's up with that. Hold on, let me see if I can share my screen.
Started in April, Gwendolyn said.
Oh, it's something that's new that started. Ooh, yeah, I don't know then. That sounds like that's a bug that just hasn't been picked up by anybody yet. And no one knows why you can't do the teleport to encounter scene. We believe it's due to a bad flag setting.
Okay.
The taming necklace, I'm trying to think what changes might have gone in that would affect that. I can't really think of anything that might affect that.
Trezor says that tamers can use it to tame another pet, but I don't have confirmation on that. Started when the no overwrite a locked taming necklace came in. What Vino says.
There.
That sounds like a bug, you guys, and now that he's aware of it, he'll look into it.
Taming necklace becomes locked to you if creature dies. Yeah, that's I hadn't heard about that one. That one just sounds like a bug that got introduced when a new feature got added in. Let's see. Let me get some questions up here. Why are we still cloning maps? We need new content. So we are working on lots of new content. Obviously, using existing content and tuning it up to make it more meaningful is much more efficient. We always do try to balance the new content with the old stuff. We've got a couple new scenes that have already come out. We've got a couple more coming. There's going to be Travis's scene should be live next release. I believe the Lord British's cast scene that Sanyo is working on should be live next release. Those will be completely new scenes with some completely new mechanics to boot. But yeah, totally get it. We don't like reusing existing content, but we do have some really good existing content that just was never, having maps for tier 3 stuff is just useless. But some of those tier 3 maps are really beautiful. So it feels a shame. You know, some of those people worked on for 3-4 months, making them amazing. So it's a shame to have those just be, you know, relics or places you visit one time ever. So let's see. 2XP or 2 times XP is nice, but it feels like cheating. 8 million experience attenuation is too much, will unbalance the game, so to speak. So it's one of those things we've kind of adjusted the bar a little bit. I do agree that's 8 million was never my target. 4 million was kind of my target. This release, it should be a little tougher to get to 8 million. East Reach Gap received a little bit of tuning, very minor tuning, and a couple of the other scenes received tuning up in terms of the control points. But I mean, I kind of agree right now. We do really consider keeping people home important. And that is one of those things, keeping people home and keeping them playing is something that, you know, we're passionate about making sure we do. And that was one that was kind of a bone we threw to people. We thought also with people staying home, we've got a lot of new players coming into the game. Having 2x experience point is also kind of a way for them to catch up. And obviously it's one of those things you can point at, well, they can never catch up because the other guys started with more experience, but again, you plateau at some point in terms of how much good experience does you. You can always get a little bit, you know, more and more, but you do start plateauing just because of the way we have exponential increases, and most skills are nonlinear in terms of power increase. So yes, I agree. I don't plan on keeping 2x experience on forever. The bigger thing I've been doing lately, speaking of cheating, is cracking down on some botters. I actually think I put in patch notes like maybe a week ago. I did a patch, the first live patch in a while, and I think I put in there some performance and behind the scenes stuff, I think is what the patch notes said. And some of that was just stuff to try and better track what's going on with botters so I can more easily identify them. So
I say thank you for that. I know that that it's definitely had an impact. I've seen the Twitter posts, but I want to caution you that there's some potential that people are still botting and crafting.
So botting and crafting, it is a problem. To me, it is less of a problem because you can't just sit there and bot and craft all day without any inputs. There's input that comes from it that has to come from adventuring or something you purchased with gold. So it is a problem, and it's one of the things I will probably be taking a look at. But in general, the botting is generally pretty, you know, players feel like they're getting away with something, but they really aren't getting that much in terms of rewards for it. And then sometimes they're botting to get around, you know, somewhat tedious game mechanics. So I have a little sympathy there. So they're going to be later on my list once I feel like I've got botting in other areas under control. I'll probably start going to those. And those will probably, when I do those, rather than those being, you know, 7-day bans or perma bans or 3-day bans, those will end up being more like, let me give you a warning, and I'll make a big server announcement about it to let people know, you know, that time has passed. We're not going to do any more server or any more botting. And if there's any gratuitous botting going on now with the crafting stuff, I definitely will take a look at it. I actually did take a pass on that recently. And again, it's stuff that is, you know, turning wood pulp or making wood pulp type stuff. It's stuff that has little real game effect, even though people feel like they're getting away with stuff. But again, this is not the director of the game saying that botting is okay in crafting. This is saying I will get to it. To me, adventure botting is 100 times more important.
Cool. I say thank you. I'm sure a lot of other people are appreciative of it. I don't believe that it's a day late, a dollar short. I don't think it's ever too late to handle stuff like that.
Yeah. And again, one of the big pushes we had was, one, I had a lot of information. I'd done work on catching botters stuff before, but it's one of those things that's really tough to tell between just a consistent player and botters. But then the other thing we had started doing was to make sure we had been doing a verification, in-person verification of going and checking, in-person checking on them before we would actually take action against them. And I had checked probably 20, 30 different people over the last couple months and had not, every time someone had responded within a minute. But then I had basically people partially informing me, but probably more just making fun of me for being so stupid, as players frequently will do, letting me know that, haha, they just sit on Discord chat channel with speakers on, and if somebody shows up and somebody on the chat channel yells, and they come back to their computer. So that type of stuff kind of got me to the point where I can look at it and tell, I'm not going to name what type of stuff we do to identify botters, but there's some things in their signatures that are just make it super obvious. So
okay, that's good enough for me. Don't give away your secrets, because they'll just find a way around it.
Exactly. Here, let me tell you the exact metrics I'm looking at. But yeah, and I can tell you the botting activity, there's still some out there that's showing up on my meter as botting. It has dropped off significantly though. So again, it's an ongoing battle that will forever rage between any game developer and botters, as each tries to up their game on that stuff. Trying to take serious steps towards it anyways. But
all right, well, we've hit the 1 hour. I mean, obviously we're glad to have you as long as you have time, but yep. If you have to go, then we understand that as well.
I'm supposed to take a little girl swimming.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can hit a few more here. We're trying to do I think like everybody else, speaking of trying to make sure people stay home and stay safe, we're also trying to stay home and stay safe. My daughter has left the house, left our neighborhood one time, and that was to go to the zoo since March. The zoo really set up where they have like a one-way path, and you have to wear a mask, and everybody's spaced out in it. So it's about as safe as you can get. But we're trying to set things to look forward to, as everybody probably should be doing at this time. But anyways, we've set that for her, as we will go to Hawaii once things clear up. We'll see. We've been telling her a year from now. July year, so you can look forward.
Left the house 4 times literally since March, so
that's better than me. I'm in a groove where basically I go out once a week and do grocery shopping. I go to Costco just because they've been really good about low crowds and distancing and how they handle everything and super cleanliness. And but I go there just because I buy basically a week's worth of veggies and fruit. We try to do a lot of veggies and fruit here. So, but yeah, that's better than me. I know a lot of people who are doing the home delivery for groceries and stuff like that. I'm still going out once a week. But let me see if I can throw in a few more questions here before I bail. Let's see. When can we get deco surfaces on the crafted palisade walls and equivalent Kodo store items needed? Well, that's another one to throw to Elryin. He's actually been working on a lot of that stuff in terms of, again, the decorations and those type of things. That's one of the ones he's been working on lately. It felt for a long time, it felt like a lot of the where you can put decorations was fairly random, at least in some older items. And he's been going back to mark stuff like, items that were marked, but they could only go on the dirt ground outside. They couldn't go anywhere like on a roof. He's been going back and marking those things so they can be properly placed indoors or up on top of stuff. So if you have that type of, here's an item that I should be able to place as another one is pot decorations. So he's been going and turning lots and lots of decos into pot decorations. But he's the guy to hit up with those things, and he's been jumping on those, and that's I think he loves doing it too, because it's a quick, safe way to make some people happy.
There is one on the bottom of that list, I think, has to do with masks. And I think Drizzt here is also asking a similar question, or maybe it's his question. Something to do with making masks universal. The mask pattern, so you can apply it to any head item, I guess.
Let's see. I did not know that. Let's see, making them. So yeah, I can go make all those masks universal. And for those who don't know what that means, that is just there's some armor types. You know that this type is a heavy armor, this type is a light armor, or whatever. Counts as the same type, and that's to make it so it counts as a heavy armor or light armor. But yeah, I can go flag those. Let me do that right after this. Yeah, that's a good easy one. I didn't know that was a problem. And we do have, there's some things in there like crowns and stuff like that. I think the current flagged is universal, so that system already exists. But yeah, I'll go and try and flag those things right now. Let's see. The last one is: are you aware players still able to use 2 BMC rings as long as they're different rarities? No, I did not know that. I did set them up to exclude other rarities. So that surprises me to hear that. I'll have to look into fixing that. And you can send your hate mail to whoever answered that question for pointing that out to me. All right, well, I'm going to go take a little girl to a swimming pool and hope that there's nobody else there, because that's our rules. If we get there and there's somebody else at the swimming pool, we come back on.
Well, thank you so much for coming to the stream.
Sure.
I appreciate it, and I know the rest of the community appreciates it, even the ones that are upset. I know that there's appreciation because they're here. So thank you very, very much, and hopefully we can do this more often. And you know, cool. Well, we'll
feel free to make it the release day stream if you want to.
Oh, nice. Well, maybe we'll consider that. We'll talk in via email through support. Feel free to email me anytime or pop into the Discord if you want to get a hold of me directly.
Will do. I'm just making some notes on some things to change here. Sorry. But yeah, thanks again for having me on, and keep up the streaming work, and I'll keep working on the game. I'll get some of the stuff you just brought up in the stream in there.
Cool.
Right.
Thanks.
All right.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day, and have fun at the pool.
Thanks. See ya.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for sitting through that video with us. I hope you enjoyed that question and answer session between myself and Chris from Catnip Games. I hope that your questions were answered, but if you would like more information or you have further questions, please feel free to stop by the Silvertree Consortium right here on Twitch, and we'll see what we can do about getting your questions answered. If you'd like additional information about Shroud of the Avatar, consider checking out shroudoftheavatar.com, the official website for Shroud of the Avatar. Once again, thank you so much for stopping by today and watching the video with us. I hope to catch you at a live stream very soon, and I also hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day.